Is there a town in Zambia that has this much history as the town of MBALA, that if we were to write about it, we would fill libraries with books in its honor, and its artifacts would flood museums, known as the oldest district in Zambia, the very place where the First World War ended, and it's only an hour away from Kalambo Falls, the place where fire was first discovered in Zambia. And MBALA houses the oldest prison in Zambia, but for a town with so much history, it feels so small and underdeveloped, like nothing has really changed about the town since its glory days. Moving around the town center, there are mixed feelings of knowing so much about MBALA and seeing so few. And tourism is not as big as you wish it could be. Its growth is at a very slow pace for a town of its stature. So join me on our 22nd episode of I Travel the World. And these are some of the things that you didn't know about the town of MBALA. The first colonial settlement was in 1893, and the district was founded by Hugh Charles Marshall, with its original site at Chief Zombe's village. Hugh Marshall built a well-fortified boma at the village. The seen images of the stockade boma, which stood on the banks of the Lucheche stream. It was built on the banks because it was suitable for checking the slave routes to the east and to counter Bemba slave raids in the area. And Hugh Marshall acted as the magistrate and the postmaster, and the rare photos of the first post office in Abercorn. And in the year of 1895, the British South African Company took over administration of the territory, which was to be called Northeastern Rhodesia. And the boma at Zombe was to be called Abercorn after the Duke of Abercorn, who was the president of the British South African Company. In the pre-colonial times, David Livingstone was the first European to explore the area around MBALA in 1867, and was followed closely by Veni Lavet Cameron, who was one of the first Europeans to survey Lake Tanganyika. In the 19th century, the area was ravaged by the slave trade. This caused the British government to send representatives to strengthen imperial presence of the British in the land. And this resulted to MBALA setting off the establishment of colonialism in 1895. Hugh Marshall left his service in Abercorn to become the acting administrator of Northeastern Rhodesia in 1911, and later that year, Northeastern and Northwestern Rhodesia were amalgamated to become Northern Rhodesia. The District Commissioner Office building was a boma, a British overseas military administration. It was the first High Court in Northern Rhodesia, which was known as the Crown Court. The African Lakes Corporation, which was founded in 1877 in the land we now call Malawi, built their agencies and stores in Abercorn. The corporation, which was later acquired of its control by the British South African Company, would go on to build the Tanganyika Airport in Abercorn. And this was the first airport in Northern Rhodesia and the first in Central Africa, connecting Cape to Cairo. In the 1920s, it became the Abercorn International Airport, and after Zambia's independence, it was changed to the MBALA International Airport. A town management board was established in the January of 1959, and after the independence of the country in 1964, to become the sovereign Republic of Zambia. The native people were now free in their own lands, and this saw the town's name change from Abercorn to MBALA in 1968. The name MBALA derives from a type of spotted bushback which is known as imbala, which was commonly found around Lake Chila, and MBALA became a municipality in 1996. And freedom fighter Mr. Zanko Mpundu Mtembo, the man who inspired the freedom statue, was born in the town of MBALA. Walking in the main street of MBALA, here you find the oldest prison in Zambia, which was built in 1912. And just about 100 meters away, you find one of the most beautiful churches in the country, which has a wonderful and loving congregation, the All Saints Anglican Church of MBALA, which was built in 1955 by the London Missionary Society. The establishment of the Tanganyika Victoria Memorial Institute is said to be in 1902, but its original building bent down to the ground, and this red brick building was built in 1950. The building was built as a cultural center, a library, and a museum. The European settlers held parties, wrote plays like Alice in Abercorn. To be acted at the TVMI as theatre, they played sports, and established their own sports clubs like the Abercorn Yacht Club, and Lake Chila provided for fishing, boat cruising, sailing, and swimming. The town had its own monthly newspaper called Abercornucopia that shared stories of the people that lived in the town of Abercorn. During the colonial times, the people of Abercorn and the surrounding territories were now troubled by locusts, which found their breeding grounds in the regions of Lake Tanganyika, Lake Chila, and Mweruwantipa. This saw the establishment of the Red Locust Control in 1929, which would fight against the infamous plague that lasted from 1930 to 1944. The dark clouds of locusts would spread out in all directions, which left leafless trees, grassless tracts, and empty croplands. The locusts ate the crops and vegetations around the area, and Abercorn became the headquarters of the International Red Locust Control Service. And this building was erected in 1949, but today this structure is dilapidated and abandoned. And the Red Locust is just nearby the Grasshopper Hotel. I spent a night here and